Poor leg circulation triples your fall risk after 60. But here's what nobody tells you. One common food can improve blood flow in weeks, not months. For most of my career, I believed what the textbooks said. That circulation problems in the legs were simply the price of getting older. That stiff arteries, tired calves, and heavy feet were normal. I was wrong. And I didn't realize how wrong until I saw the same pattern repeat itself in patient after patient, year after year. There was a Japanese physician, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, who lived past 100 years old and worked almost until the end of his life. He had a philosophy that most Western medicine never truly embraced. He believed that aging well had very little to do with how long your body exists, and everything to do with how well energy moves through it. Not calories, not steps, energy. And nowhere does that truth reveal itself more clearly than in the legs. After 60, circulation to the legs almost always declines quietly, slowly, so slowly that most people don't notice it at first. You just get tired a little sooner. Your calves burn after a short walk. Your feet feel cold in bed at night. You hesitate on stairs. You grip the railing a little tighter. Then one day walking stops feeling automatic. It feels uncertain. And that's when fear enters the picture. Here's the part nobody talks about. Poor leg circulation doesn't just limit how far you can walk. It quietly erodes confidence. It changes how you move through the world. It makes people plan their day around where they can sit, where they can rest, where they might stumble. I've watched strong, independent adults shrink their lives not because of pain, but because of unreliable legs. Now imagine your body as an old irrigation system. The pump may still work, the reservoir may still be full, but over time, pressure drops. The pipes stiffen, and the fields farthest from the source dry out first. Those farthest fields are your legs and your feet. This is why heart tests can look normal, yet your legs feel like they're starving. This is why walking alone often stops working. This is why people feel dismissed when they're told everything looks fine, because the problem isn't supply, it's signaling. There's a modern physician, Dr. Mark Hyman, who helped bring back an ancient idea, food as medicine. But not in the way most people think. Certain foods don't just nourish the body. They send instructions to it. They flip biological switches that drugs often miss. And one of those switches controls blood flow to your legs. Here's the surprise. There is one inexpensive, overlooked food that directly improves the signaling that tells blood vessels in your legs to open, relax, and deliver oxygen again. Not aggressively, not artificially, but in a way the aging body actually understands. This isn't about superfoods, it's not about supplements with fancy labels, and it's not about doing more harder exercise. It's about restoring a missing message. In this video, I'm going to show you why leg circulation fails first after 60, why most fixes don't work no matter how disciplined you are, and the exact way to use one simple food so your legs can feel warmer, stronger, and more reliable again. Not someday, but as part of a daily routine your body can sustain. Before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. And as we go through this, pay attention to what your legs feel like right now. Because by the end, you'll understand that they're not broken. They're just not getting the signal they need. There is a quiet assumption most people carry into their 60s and 70s, that cold feet, cramping calves, or legs that fatigue too quickly are simply signs of time passing. A normal trade-off. An unavoidable slowdown. That assumption is one of the most damaging ideas in aging, because what's actually happening inside the body has very little to do with effort, motivation, or even heart strength. It has to do with how blood vessels communicate. As we age, the body doesn't fail all at once. It prioritizes. Blood flow is preserved for the brain and the heart first. The farther you move from that center, the more fragile circulation becomes. The legs are at the end of the line. Inside the lining of your blood vessels are cells called endothelial cells. When you were younger, these cells constantly released a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is not a drug. It's not a supplement. It's a signal. It tells blood vessels to relax, widen, and deliver blood where it's needed. After 60, that signal weakens, not suddenly, gradually. Nitric oxide production declines year by year. Blood vessels lose elasticity. They become less responsive, especially in areas far from the heart, where gravity is already working against you. Think of blood vessels like old rubber hoses. When they're new, even a modest amount of pressure causes them to expand and deliver water easily. Over time, the rubber stiffens. Without a strong signal, the hose stays narrow, even if water is available. This is why so many people are told their heart looks fine, their cholesterol is acceptable, and their tests are normal, yet their legs feel anything but normal. There was a woman I remember clearly, Marion, 72 years old, sharp mind, active lifestyle. Her heart tests were clean, but after a few minutes of walking, her calves would burn and tighten. She thought she was out of shape. Her doctors focused on endurance and pacing. The real issue was never her effort. It was the message her blood vessels were no longer receiving. Without adequate nitric oxide signaling, blood simply cannot reach working leg muscles efficiently. Oxygen delivery lags. Waste products accumulate. Muscles fatigue faster. The sensation feels like weakness, but it's actually undersupply. This is why the legs often speak first when circulation starts to decline. They are not failing. They are being shortchanged. When circulation is viewed only through the lens of heart rate, steps, or endurance, the deeper issue gets missed. The problem isn't how fast blood is pumped, it's whether the vessels are being told to open when they should, and when that signal fades, the legs feel it long before the rest of the body does. Movement has always been framed as the universal solution. Walk more, stay active, keep the blood flowing. For decades, that advice sounded logical, even responsible. But after 60, something subtle changes inside the body that makes movement alone less effective than it once was. Walking still matters. Muscles still contract. The heart still pumps. But the internal response to that movement is no longer the same. In a younger body, physical movement automatically triggers a chemical conversation inside the blood vessels. Endothelial cells sense the increased demand for oxygen and release nitric oxide. That nitric oxide tells the vessels to relax, widen, and allow more blood to pass through. It's a beautifully efficient system. With age, that conversation grows quiet. After 60, endothelial cells don't respond to movement with the same urgency. The nitric oxide response becomes muted. The signal weakens. So even though the legs are moving, the vessels supplying them don't fully open. Blood flow increases slightly, but not enough. Imagine standing at a locked door and knocking harder and harder. The effort increases. The door doesn't open. Not because the knock isn't strong, but because the key is missing. Walking provides the knock. Nitric oxide is the key. Without it, blood vessels remain partially constricted. Oxygen delivery lags behind demand. Muscles shift into an inefficient state, producing fatigue and heaviness far sooner than they should. This explains something many people find deeply confusing. They stay consistent. They walk every day. They do what they've been told for years, yet their legs still feel tired by afternoon, still heavy, still unreliable. I remember Thomas, 68 years old. He walked every morning without fail, same route, same pace, but by mid-afternoon his legs felt weighted, almost swollen from the inside. He assumed it was poor conditioning or age catching up. What he was feeling wasn't laziness or decline, it was restricted blood flow at the vessel level. Without sufficient nitric oxide, walking becomes a demand without delivery. The muscles ask for more oxygen, the vessels hesitate. The gap between effort and supply widens. Over time, that gap teaches the body to conserve. Steps shorten, pace slows, confidence erodes. Not because the legs are incapable, but because the system supporting them has lost responsiveness. This is why focusing solely on movement can feel frustrating after 60. The activity is there, the discipline is there, but the biological response is incomplete. When blood vessels lose their ability to relax on command, circulation becomes less about effort and more about signaling. And without restoring that signal, even the best habits struggle to deliver the results they once did. The legs don't need more willpower. They need clearer instructions. There is a reason this part surprises people. For years, beets were dismissed as old-fashioned, too sweet, or nutritionally irrelevant. Some avoided them because of sugar, others because they didn't grow up eating them, and many simply never considered that something so ordinary could influence something as complex as circulation. But biology doesn't care about trends. It responds to signals. Inside beets is a class of natural compounds called dietary nitrates. These nitrates are not stimulants, they are not drugs, they are raw material. When they enter the body, they are converted step by step into nitric oxide. This matters because nitric oxide is the very signal that aging blood vessels struggle to produce on their own. Instead of forcing vessels open, beets support the body's original language. They provide the ingredients needed to rebuild the message that says, relax, widen, deliver. That's why the effect is often felt where circulation is weakest first. The legs, the feet, the calves that fatigue too early, the toes that feel cold even under blankets. Think of it like a software update for your blood vessels. Over time, the original programming degrades. Commands get lost, responses slow down. Beets don't replace the hardware. They restore the instructions. When nitric oxide levels rise, even modestly, blood vessels regain flexibility. They respond more easily. Blood flows with less resistance. Oxygen reaches muscle tissue more efficiently. Waste products clear faster. The sensation people describe isn't dramatic at first. It's subtle. Warmth, less heaviness, a feeling that the legs are cooperating again instead of resisting. Evelyn was 75 when she noticed this shift. She hadn't changed her walking routine. She hadn't pushed harder, but within a few weeks, her feet felt warmer at night. Her steps felt steadier. She stopped thinking about her legs as much. That's an important detail. Healthy circulation is quiet. You don't notice it when it's working. You only notice when it's gone. What makes beets especially relevant after 60 is that they bypass one of the biggest age-related bottlenecks. Instead of asking endothelial cells to produce more nitric oxide from scratch, they provide a direct pathway, a shortcut the aging body can still use. This is also why the form matters. Whole beets and simple beetroot juice retain the natural nitrate structure. They move through the body in a way the conversion process understands. Highly processed supplements often lose that reliability, diluted by fillers or stripped of synergy. Beets don't act like a jolt. They act like a reminder to blood vessels of what they used to do effortlessly. And when that reminder reaches the legs, the change isn't about strength, it's about supply. The legs don't suddenly become younger, they become better supported. One of the most misunderstood aspects of circulation after 60 is timing and consistency. Aging biology does not respond well to extremes. It doesn't like sudden surges, aggressive doses, or irregular patterns. It responds to rhythm. Nitric oxide behaves the same way. When exposure is occasional and unpredictable, blood vessels don't adapt. They receive a brief signal, then return to their stiffened state. But when nitric oxide availability is gently reinforced over time, vessels begin to relearn how to respond. Think of it like oiling a hinge. One heavy application followed by neglect doesn't change much. Small regular contact restores smooth movement. This is why moderation matters more than intensity. The aging body interprets steady nitrate exposure as a long-term message rather than a temporary event. Over time, the enzymes involved in nitric oxide conversion remain active. The vascular lining becomes more responsive. Blood flow improves not because vessels are forced open, but because they're reminded how to open. Paul was 70 when he noticed how much his legs dictated his day. Stairs felt uncertain. Long hallways felt longer than they should. What changed for him wasn't effort or determination. It was consistency. His legs didn't suddenly become powerful. They became dependable. That dependability comes from predictability inside the body. Using beets in modest, repeatable amounts allows nitric oxide levels to rise without overwhelming the system. Cooked beets provide a stable nitrate source that the body processes slowly. Beetroot juice offers a more immediate, but still gentle pathway. The timing matters because blood flow demand matters. When circulation support aligns with movement, blood vessels are more receptive. The signal arrives when it's most useful. Oxygen delivery improves at the exact moment muscles are asking for it. There is also an overlooked factor in this process: the mouth. The conversion of dietary nitrates into nitric oxide relies on beneficial oral bacteria. These bacteria begin the transformation before nitrates ever reach the bloodstream. When they are disrupted, the signal weakens before it even starts. That's why antiseptic mouthwash can interfere with this entire pathway. It doesn't just freshen breath, it silences a critical biological step in nitric oxide production. This detail alone explains why some people never feel results, despite using the right food. The message is being erased before it's delivered. When the pathway remains intact, the effect builds quietly. Blood vessels relax more readily. Circulation becomes less effortful. The legs begin to feel supported rather than strained. Confidence often returns before speed or endurance. People describe trusting their legs again. Standing feels easier. Walking feels less calculated. The body stops bracing. This is not about pushing circulation harder. It's about allowing it to function the way it was designed to function, even in an aging system. And when blood flow to the legs becomes reliable again, the change isn't dramatic. It's something far more valuable. It's calm. There was something Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara understood long before modern medicine caught up. He believed the goal of aging was not comfort. It was continued movement through life. Movement with purpose. Movement with dignity. He didn't see the body as something that simply wears out. He saw it as something that responds, adapts, and recalibrates when it receives the right messages. Leg circulation fits perfectly into that philosophy. When blood flow to the legs begins to fade, it's easy to assume the legs themselves are the problem. Weak muscles, aging joints, declining strength. But more often than not, the legs are capable. They're just undersupplied. Poor circulation is not fate. It's usually a missing signal. When nitric oxide declines with age, blood vessels don't lose their purpose. They lose their instructions. They forget when and how to open. The result feels like weakness, but it's actually hesitation at the vascular level. That distinction matters, because when the signal is restored, the experience changes quietly but profoundly. Legs feel warmer, steps feel steadier, standing feels less effortful. Walking stops being something that requires planning and starts feeling automatic again. This is where Dr. Mark Hyman's principle comes full circle. The right food, used correctly, can influence biology in ways that are gentler than medication and more sustainable than force. Not by overpowering the system, but by reminding it how it works. Beats don't act like a shortcut. They act like a translator. They help the body speak a language it hasn't used fluently in years. And when that language reaches the legs, something important happens beyond circulation. Confidence returns. Independence feels protected. The world becomes easier to navigate. Warm legs are not a luxury. Steady steps are not a bonus. They are foundations of dignity. The body is not broken. The strategy was simply incomplete. When blood flow is allowed to move freely again, it carries more than oxygen.